So a few last, slightly more specific, shorter, but I find really, really useful tips when I'm self-taping. The first one of those is a bit of a pain uh, and kind of blindingly obvious in some ways, but learn your lines just because it makes such a huge difference for the camera to be able to see you and see your face. Get off book as well as you possibly can. Usually, I find film scripts are a little bit easier to read than and to learn than theatre scripts, for example. The lines quite often tend to be a little bit shorter, a little bit easier to absorb. They're very close to how people naturally speak a lot of the time. As best you can, try and learn those lines, because it's really, really difficult if someone's watching a self-tape back to get a sense of you if you're having to look down like this and we're losing so much of your face because you're looking at your script or whatever. So yeah, it's a bit of a pain. Learn your lines if you possibly can. The next little tip I was given by someone, which I really like using sometimes, is that it can be quite nice to, obviously, you pick your point where you're going to do the majority of the scene, where you imagine your scene partner to be. But at the start of the scene, you don't start looking at that point. You might start with your eye line somewhere else. You might just allow yourself to be looking down, as action's called, or looking away somewhere else, just to give yourself a little bit more time, as I've already discussed, to immerse yourself imaginatively. Like, where am I? Who am I speaking to? And to just take a moment when action is called to take in the space around you and find the reason and the thought to speak, and then give your eye line to that person and connect with them. It's just a nice little hook that means we don't get your eye line straight away, and when we see it for the first time, it draws us in. It's a nice little hook, along with the help that it can give you in terms of immersing yourself in the performance. Either you're going to need potentially a family member to just sit behind the camera, give you the lines for you to respond to, or if you don't have access to that, or if you really hate doing that process, there are apps that you can download on your phone. I use a really good one called Line Learner, which I believe has a completely free trial that you can get of it, where you can record yourself reading the other characters' lines in the scene, and it will play them back to you in real time with pauses for you to deliver your lines. So that's a really good alternative that you can look into as well if you do not have a chance to bounce those things back and forward with someone for real in the flesh. Another thing to think about is, how am I breathing in the scene? So take your mind to what's happened to your character immediately before. Where have they come from? Is it a high stakes situation? Is it a low stakes situation? Where do they find themselves? Are they indoors? Are they outdoors? All of these things, you can kind of condense them down to, how am I breathing? Is my breath, is it rapid? Is it irregular? Is it sharp? Is it shallow? Or is it much more steady? Is it slow? Is it tired? Is it energized? However you want to think about it. But it's just a really nice kind of no acting required way of dropping into the specifics of the scene. And again, just subtly for the viewer, it just makes that situation that we're trying to buy into imaginatively a little bit more vivid, a little bit clearer for us. We just imperceptibly, consciously or unconsciously, we pick it up in your performance. So, yeah, it's a nice shortcut to dropping into the scene with the right kind of attitude, right kind of energy, which will obviously inform the way you're holding yourself, inform whatever psychological processes are going on. Just think about, how am I breathing? Where have I come from? What's that doing to me physiologically? And letting that gently reverberate through the scene with no kind of extra heavy duty performing required that feels fake or manufactured in any obvious way. And then the final tip that I was given by someone, which is absolutely invaluable, or at least it has been to me, is watch yourself back. And it's horrible at first, but try to develop your confidence and your willingness to do that, because you will learn so much. There's a lot of kind of truisms, and I hope I haven't engaged in them too much in this video, but there's a lot of kind of truisms around screen acting which can actually be quite unhelpful. Like, lots of people will often say screen acting is smaller than stage acting, or you have to do less, these sorts of things. And personally speaking, and lots of actors I know and directors I know actually don't really believe those things and don't find them very, very helpful. You know, screen acting can be very small. It can be very, very subtle. It can be very, very minute, but it can also be very, very technical. It can be very, very vivid. It can demand quite a lot of performing and acting. Sometimes it can feel more fake than stage acting. Completely depends on the medium. If you're doing something like, you know, Doctor Who, it's going to require a totally different level of performance to uh, film like Drive, where Ryan Gosling doesn't really move his face for the entirety of the performance. Like, it completely depends on the medium and the script you're working with. So it's not about, I would say, doing less. It's about being prepared to watch yourself back and getting a sense of, for this script, for this character, for this situation, am I pitching this about right? And it really is trial and error. No hard and fast rules, in my opinion. Uh, it's about watching yourself back, being comfortable with that, and using your own judgment. Does that look a bit about right? Am I not doing enough? Do I need to do a bit more acting to make the story for that character and what they're going through at that moment clear? Don't be afraid of that. Sometimes you will have to do it. It's not real still, even though it's on camera and we're told that camera is more realistic in some ways. There's still acting involved, and obviously the flip side of that is it might be that you see yourself back and you go, whoa, I'm doing way too much, my face is way too active, it's completely unbelievable, it's over the top, and then you will have to pull it back a little bit. But don't just absorb the truisms about doing more or doing less, whatever. Watch yourself back, be specific, and cater it to you as an individual. Everyone's different when they see themselves on screen, but you will get better and better and better the more you can have the confidence to grin and bear it, watch it, do another take, make an adjustment, watch it, do another take, make an adjustment, and get used to seeing yourself and listening to yourself speaking those lines on screen. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I hope some of that's been vaguely helpful, and good luck with any auditions or screen work that you have coming up soon.